First of all, I had the Fuji Junior. It was a tiny little bright red 10-speed, 24-inch wheels, stem-mounted Sun Tour shifters with little plastic condoms on them. I was ashamed of the Junior part and painted it over with touch-up paint. Now, your uncles all had Motobacan Nomads, which kind of made me jealous at the time because they were French. They all had those shitty plastic simplex derailleurs and shifters, but my brothers pretended they were kick-ass. Your grandpa had a weakness for French bikes. His was this weird, crappy Giton. I couldn't tell what color it was. I even asked my dad. He couldn't say either. Even your grandma Jude had a French bike. Also a Giton, women's mixedy frame, narrow, rock-hard plastic saddle. She hated it. I only saw her ride it once. So after the Motobacans, Uncle Jeff and Uncle Brian upstaged me again with these Libertas racing bikes from Belgium. Now, they were pure shit, terrible lug work, little specks of excess flux the builders couldn't be bothered to sand off. But the bikes had flashy head tube decals and really skinny tires, and I was in awe. My next bike was like sensible shoes, a Miata 310, $265 plus tax in 1981. Gosh, 2 decades before you were born. I tricked it out with Sun Tour Superb Pro brakes and pedals, hand-built wheels I bought off your Uncle Jeff, Philwood hubs and Weinman rims, laced radially, which was almost unheard of back then. Strong light cranks, drilled out chain rings, which is pretty badass. Concours saddle, which had just come out. Kind of radical at the time. I had the Super Corsa, which had steel rails. I sold that 310 to Joe Olinsky for $515. His mom was furious. Now, your Uncle Max had the Univega Viva Sport. He took off all the decals, slapped on some Diacomp 500G brakes, tried to pass it off as a Colnago. My first pro bike was a Mercian Colorado, Reynolds 531 with an SL fork. Beautiful color they called Champagne Pearl, really gorgeous. A bit like the color of a fawn, actually. Bought that from my pal Nico. A couple months after that, we were riding at night, and I piled into a curb, bent the frame, crumpled the down tube below the shifter bosses. Heartbreaking. From there, I got into more Miatas. There was the 83 Pro. Then the 83 Team I bought off of Toll. He got it from Andre Clausen. I traded that to your Uncle Jeff for the 84 Team. He'd become too short to ride after the car accident. I had 8 Miatas. Loved them all. Not that they were actually that good. Kind of heavy. Top tube's too short. The 83 head angle wasn't aggressive enough. After my 86 Team Miata's fork broke at Nationals, I bought the Guerciotti SLX from Dave Feingold for $400. It was a 10-speed drive team issue, red, white, and blue fade paint job, so I named it Bomb Pop. God, I loved that bike. Long top tube, 74 head angle, 72 seat, low bottom bracket. It just handled so beautifully. Index shifting never worked on that bike, so I ran it with simplex retro friction shifters. Had some of my best races on that bike. In '96, I bought a brand new Dura Ace Grupo for it, laced up a fresh set of wheels. 2 weeks later, I was riding on the Golden Gate Bridge sprinting, and the fork broke. Head tube sheared clean off. I piled face first into the concrete, headset bearings rolling everywhere. I needed a bunch of stitches. Still, that was one of my favorite bikes. Well, that was a long time before you were born.